With the Prey of LUA update, we were introduced to 4 new Arcanes, but are they even any good? Considering that you have to slow down getting Varuna and her weapons to farm these Arcanes, you might want to know if they are actually any good. Starting with Conjunction Voltage. This Arcane grants multi-shot and reload speed with every electric proc, stacking up to 40 times, or stacking up to 120% multi-shot and 60% reload speed. It slots into your secondary weapon and doesly compete with secondary merciless. So, any secondary weapon meant for killing will be using Galvanized Diffusion, which grants 230% multi-shot, bringing us up to a total of 330% multi-shot, obviously as any weapon has 100% multi-shot to begin with. So, adding another 120% multi-shot with Conjunction Voltage is actually only a 36% damage increase, as 120 over 330 is 0.36 or 36%. That is what we gain in terms of damage. Now let's take a look at what we lose. If, as you should, you decide not to run Hornet Strike with secondary Merciless, then you will lose 78% damage by slotting out secondary Merciless. On the other hand, if you for some reason would run Hornet Strike, then you'd lose 52% overall DPS by slotting out secondary Merciless. But it is still more than the 36% gain from Conjunction Voltage. The free quick draw does not make up for this difference, but that's because this Arcane is meant to go on a primer, a weapon solely designed for applying status effects. On primers, we use Barrel Diffusion instead of Galvanized Diffusion, which only offers 120% multi-shot, which means that this Arcane will double the number of bullets fired and thus the status effects being applied. This may be particularly efficient on the Epitaph with its high range but slow fire rate. Furthermore, playing this on Volt, Gaia or Wisp, which naturally apply electric procs through their abilities, will be optimal. We will give this a solid 7 out of 10, quite useful but mostly for some niche builds. Next up, Primary Frostbite. Again, the damage output is still less than just using Merciless, but it is a decent primer tool. With that said, the cold status effect is kinda hard to come by if you're not playing Gauss, and it offers less multi-shot, and the Cedo already doesn't have to reload. 4 out of 10. Arcane Rise would have been quite good for the Warframe that had an Arcane slot open, but nowadays most Warframes are pretty much locked into using 2 very powerful and specific Arcanes, whichever Arcanes that may be for the given Warframe. This Arcane offers 32% damage increase on your primary, assuming that you are already running primary Merciless or Dead Hit. Arcanes are insanely powerful and build defining. Just gaining 32 flat DPS is not nearly good enough as a Warframe Arcane. 2 out of 10 would never use this. Finally, we have Arcane Blessing, and I'm sure that you are all waiting for me to announce that health tanking is back and that this Arcane is the greatest ever, and it really is just not. It's not that good actually. In fact, it is really actually terrible. Let's imagine 2 scenarios. 1. We are doing an endless survival at level 4000 enemies and a bombard hits us for 2 million damage. Even with our current health pool of 2500, we still get one shot for 6000 damage. Adding 1200 more hit points ain't gonna do squat. Scenario number 2. You elect to run this instead of a health mod. This is not viable either because health tanks always run an entire Umbra mod set, meaning that not only do we lose hit points, we also lose armor and ability strength, and an Arcane slot just so we can fit one more mod. Not worth it. Just put this into perspective. It would have to cap at 12,000 health for me to even consider it, and at that point I'm not even sure that I would think that it was worth using. Going off script here for a second, I really want to try and hammer this in, right? This Arcane is super limited in the sense that you need to be playing like Varana or Nikros or someone who can actually spawn the health orbs in order to get the stacks on it that you need. And something else is that if you're gonna play for, let's say, an hour in survival, most health tanks are gonna be doing fine. Like, they don't need that extra health. And again, I wouldn't replace the health mod for it, right? And once you actually get it stacked, right? Once you pass that 1 hour mark where you would actually need the health, the enemies are gonna start scaling so crazy fast that it might be relevant for, let's say, 10 minutes of the survival, and then the enemies are gonna start one-shotting you anyways. So it's never really gonna be useful for anything. However, if you do not have Arcane Grace, this can be used temporarily on Chroma, as the armor from Arcane Guardian is less relevant on him specifically. But that is everything, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next one.